Hello and welcome to the Low-Code Café. This is episode number 166 for July 17, 2024, where we go into part two of our advanced techniques for data visualization. We'll be doing that, plus getting into some know-how, some recent support cases, and some known issues. Before we do that, let me introduce myself and my co-host. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App. We also have Patrick Anderson, Technical Success Manager for Plant and App, and we'll be guiding you through the next hour. This is an event that we do on Wednesdays, 10 a.m. Central Time. This hour we do every other week. We put together training and good content for our community. And so we provide updates and demos, but the biggest part of it is hands-on low coding, and that will be true again today. We record all these and put them out on YouTube, so you can go to youtube.com/plantandapp and get to see all of the other now dozens and dozens of low-code cafes. Our agenda today, I'll be talking a little bit about from the trenches of support, and then we'll get right on into hands-on low coding. If you have a question, you're welcome to engage with us through the chat window or the Q&A. You can raise your hand and talk to us if you like, but then after it's all over, take a look at that feedback form that we'll be posting a link to. We love your comments. This is an event that's scheduled every other week, and so our next live one will be July 31st. All right, let's dive into the technical. Our current version of Plant and App released is version 1.26. It was released a little bit more than a month ago. We've released one hotfixes, and today we're not releasing any. We have a few known issues to talk about, and so I'll get into those in just a second. First, I'm going to point out a few changes to our documentation. We've been making a few changes, and so I just want you to know that these areas exist. We have our documentation is available at learn.plantandapp.com, and in our compatibility page, we've simplified that quite a bit. It used to talk about some of our older products, which are no longer, many of which are no longer for sale, but we're focusing our documentation now on Plant and App. The main thing to note is that this chart shows each of our Plant and App versions and when it was released, how long it's supported, what DNN version we recommend that you use with us with that particular version, but also the minimums and maximums that you should use. And then there's a couple of other things, requirements that don't change very much, but they do change from time to time. So there's a minimum SQL version, and I've mentioned before that that minimum SQL version will change with the next release 1.27, so that should be on your radar. And I believe it's moving to SQL Server 2016 or 2017, can't remember. But this 2012 version is obviously more than 10 years old and is out of support with Microsoft. So we want to make sure that we stay on supported versions. And then we use the .NET Framework 4.7.2. That doesn't change very often either. So that's a chart that's available to you. We also have been making some changes in this same learn.plantandapp.com. Under the configuration menu, it shows every area of the configuration menu. And with entities, we want to remind you that you're going to save yourself some trouble if you avoid using Microsoft SQL reserved words when you name tables and entity properties. So it's not that it won't work, but it adds some extra syntax for you then, and it might confuse you a little bit. So we recommend that you avoid that. And then we're updating also, there's this new feature in 1.26 that API access is off by default instead of always available. So, and you can turn it off as well. So if you're not interacting with your entities by way of APIs, you can turn those off. And let's see what else. Oh, we had in the same area, configuration roles. We recommend if you're not running, a lot of our developers run as super users to be able to do development. But if you're doing another lower role, we recommend that you use the low-code engineer role as a developer. The admin and citizen developer roles are deprecated and unmaintained, and so if you're using those roles, you're really going to be better off assigning yourself or assigning your developers the low-code engineer role. So just a couple of changes to our documentation, and so that's out there. Um, yes. I wanted to mention a few known issues with version 1.26. We had a user that reported doing an upgrade that included upgrading the DNN platform as well. We facilitate that through some kind of one-click upgrades. It's very easy to do, but in one particular case, it required an app pool restart and actually browsing to the installer. Um, Not that I expect you to remember this, just pointing out that if you encounter any problems with your upgrades, your best answer is to open a support ticket and we'll guide you right to the answers. Um, DNN in one of the recent releases introduced a monitor servers schedule job, and that has been a little bit problematic for some of our implementations. It causes the site to be very slow for period of several minutes. And it also throws a lot of things out in the logs. You can, from what our research shows, that this job is only useful on a multi-server environment. So if you're just running one server, you can disable the job, and that can be done in this settings scheduler area. You can disable the job without impunity. So if you're noticing either extra things in the logs related to monitor server's job, or you're getting a slowdown, it's happening once a day, but it can be annoying, then you can turn that off. Okay. We have an action within our product called user password validation, and that action is currently broken at version 1.26. If you are relying on that, you might want to hold off on your update to 126. Finally, the main piece of news is that, and this is going to impact everybody who is currently on version 126. We've been communicating with you about this through email, but we're going to be pushing through a bulk update. That's going to happen in the next day or two. And that by doing that, we usually use a hot fix mechanism where you get to pick and choose, but there's so many things, so many areas of the product that's gotten touched that it would be very difficult for you to discern what to install and what not to install. It's you really have to take everything, and so we're releasing it as required dependencies. That just means that after this is released, you'll browse to the configuration or app builder menu, and when you go there, you won't see the normal functionality. You'll see a screen with a button that says install dependencies. And so we'll be communicating with you with that. Watch for that. But once that's released, we should be in a very good and stable position with 1.26, and would encourage people to upgrade to that if you're on 125. Let's see, we run a weekly event, Low-Code Campfire, and we invite you to engage in that. That's the same hour on Fridays, and there's going to be a link to that to sign up for it. Patrick is poised, ready to send these on the webinar chat, so you can see them there. So you can register in advance for Low-Code Campfire. You can get to our YouTube channel or the community portal. You can give us the feedback using that feedback form. There's a couple of extra links here on this episode, and I just want to point out this is a part two. Part one was all about data acquisition. Today it's going to be all about visualization, putting up nice charts using that data we came up with. But if you want to go back, our YouTube channel has Low-Code Café number 165. That's the part one. And then we've talked about tables and charts and maps before. particularly having to do with some, it was a two-part episode that was near the DNN Summit for this year. And so that's Cafe 155, 156. So if you want to dive even deeper into visualizations, and not necessarily this techniques that I'm showing you today, but just charts and graphs in general. And then we're using ChartJS as the visualization mechanism. I'm going to grab that and just copy that just to show this open source um, library that is done through JavaScript shows nice charts and graphs in a variety of formats, and it shows exactly how to compose them. It's got the configuration and the different things that you can do. So this is a bar chart with radius. There's floating bars, there's pie charts, which is where we're going to start today. And all this is being generated by um, the visualization part is done by ChartJS. And so if you want to dig deeper into that, that's the place to go. Nice. So with that, we'll go into the hands-on low coding. And so it's all about data acquisition and visualization. Our objectives for this was that we wanted to end up with compelling charts and graphs to help you understand your data or your users to understand your data. We wanted to show how to acquire that data from SQL and get it into a dashboard. And then we also wanted to show you how to do a drill down, and I'll be um, illustrating that in a minute. So last time, part one was we covered all of these things, and I'll just refer you back to that. Um, we had some expense data that's just made up data, but shows how to create and import and look at that data. We worked on some SQL to be able to summarize it depending on the department or the category of the name or the name. We made a workflow and a token that lets us get at this data very easily in a very shorthand, low code kind of way. And I will be looking at some of this stuff as we move into our work today. And we created a new dashboard page that had a filtering form so that you could uh, filter by dates. And then you click a button and the dashboard pops up that is going, or will, that's what we're going to work on today, display this data. And we got as far as simulating a drill down, but we're actually going to wire in the drill down today. So part two is all about these ChartJS visualizations. So let's take a look at the goal so that you know where we're going and whether it's worth spending the next 45 minutes with us. This is the work that I've completed and will in my setup system, and what we're going to be doing, moving the system we were working on last time. We'll move it forward to this point by the end of this hour. So we have these nice pie charts showing working from our expense data. If we click in, or actually, let's start out with if we hover, we're looking at by department. The $7,000 is split up into three parts. And so $1,910 is related to sales. If I click, we get a drill down of the sales department, and $1,910 is the total. If we instead click over into the engineering department, we can see that they spent $3,082, and here's all the detail that has to do with the engineering department. This same drill down is wired to splitting that same $7,000 out by category. So if we want to see where travel, the $1,922 that was travel, we can click on that, and now that same listing shows travel, $1,922. If you want to see who was spending all that money by name, same data, same $7,000, and we can see that Bradley Martinez spent $800 on travel. I'm sorry, spent $800 on engineering, but that was Bradley's spending. This filtering is active, so if we, instead of going to the end of the year. This is a year's worth of data through 2023. If we apply a filter only going through half the year, the um, the graphs will change, and it's Alice Johnson, for example, who spent the most under this scenario, and we can see that Alice spent some on travel and some on entertainment, but it came to $775, $700.75. Okay, so that's all about drill downs. This ChartJS library and charts, some of the stuff that you get automatically with this is that you can click on these labels and change the graphs. So, for example, if I only want to compare marketing and engineering and I don't want sales included, I can turn that off, and now we get a change showing the comparison visually between marketing and engineering. The totals are still the same, but it's just excluded sales. So that's kind of fun. If you you don't care about meals and travel, you can turn that off and see where your money is going. So nice functionality that's built into these. So that's the target. Let's take a look at let's keep up with what we're doing here. We'll take a look at where we were, our progress from before. So we have a dashboard. This is exactly where we left off, haven't done a thing with it. So we have a filtering form up here. We have what will become our dashboard down here. But so far, all we're doing is displaying the data that we so efficiently acquired from last time. So we have department data and we have category data. So we can see gifts, meals, entertainment. Over here, same thing, same JSON return. We see it, the title is, instead of either the category or the department, the title is now the name, and we see the total amount that was spent by that person. So same data, three different ways, all totaling that same amount of money. And we had just gotten to the point, it's not flexible yet, but we just gotten to the point where you can click and do a drill down and illustrate that we can come up and show the marketing, for example, in this drill down. So we're going to make that become flexible and then wire that into our graphs once we get our graphs up. There is a transactions, and this is where we're going to start today. The transactions page has that drill down, and we have filters that are available by name, by department, by category, and so this is the drill down that shows when you click into something. All right, that's where we were. Let's get into doing something other than talking about it. First thing we need to do is enhance the drill down a little bit. I want to be able to show all the rows. That's useful in my case. That may or may not be useful in yours. But I also want to display a sum at the bottom. And so we can do those two things pretty easily. Notice there's no sum on the amount right now. If we go into the transactions listing, we can turn that on pretty easily. Sum is the amount is a numeric field, and down here at the bottom, there is a show in footer, the ability to show a sum. And so there's the spot, the total before the sum and after the sum. So for example, I might put a dollar sign before and say total expense. And it's got 2 decimal places. So that's a pretty easy change. And as I said, the other thing I wanted to do in our view, we're doing a data table view. I want to just make sure that we just show all the rows. So I'm going to do that by putting 999 as an option for a page size, and then change my default page size to 999. So let's see what happens with those two changes. We didn't get everything, and I'm surprised by that. So let's take a look. We are getting the total. We aren't getting all the rows. I suspect I made a mistake. So let's take a look at the views and fix that. Data table, 9. Let's see if it saves. Now we're getting it. So we're showing everything, all 32, and we're seeing our totals of $70.73. So if we start filtering by Alice, we're going to see Alice's total, $700.75. If we instead filter by category, entertainment, we just see the entertainment category, 1,040. So this functionality kind of leads us to the next thing that we need to know. The filtering, I'm going to do a quick review. If we look in transactions in the data source, the start date and end date is being passed in from the query string. So that if we turn on filtering, when we turn it on, we pass it as part of the query string. So automatically, or through this mechanism, let's say, this listing is being filtered based on what dates are on the query string. And then beyond that, if you choose a filter here, either a department or a category or a name filter, notice that it puts it in it puts it in the query string and it respects that. So when we say entertainment, we get that. If we say that we want to focus on department of marketing, then it shows filter department equal marketing, and it does the filtering for us. We're going to rely on this mechanism in order to do our dashboard, our drill down. So let's get that wired in, and that's our next. This is what we've accomplished so far. Here's where we're going today. The first thing we want to do is get our drill down linked and working in a drill down button. So let's do that. We look at our dashboard, and the way that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to open our dashboard form in a new tab so I can click back and forth pretty easily. The first thing I'm going to do is add a text field that's going to be called drill down data. So here we go. Data. And the other thing that we're going to do is we have this drill down button, and what does it do currently? Well, it's only got one action. It does the redirect to URL. The URL is the embed code for that listing. And if I'll refer you back, we to the last episode shows where we got this URL. But we are passing the start date as part of that, the end date as part of that. And then we just hard coded this to say the filter department equals marketing. We just made this link, this button is hard coded to show the marketing filter. But now we're going to make this dynamic. So instead of saying filter equals this hard coded value, instead we're going to use whatever value is in the drill down data. So we added this field, drill down data, and that's its name, its ID is drill down data. And whatever gets put in there, that's what's going to be added into this link. So now we can see if this works, if it's dynamic the way we hope it would be. So if we just take a look at the kind of things like filter department equal marketing, this drill down should focus on needs an ampersand. Let's try again. There we go. So with that one small correction, that is giving us a drill down into the marketing department. If we changed it to engineering, and click the drill down. Now the engineering. So what we've done is we've made this dynamic. If we provide a nice this filter the right way, and then um, click the drill down button, we'll get a nice drill down. Our goal when we get to the next step is that when with that hover is going to do that work for us. When you click on the chart, it will fill in this drill down data and we'll click the drill down button automatically. So this is the mechanism behind how that's going to work. I need to look and see how this is supposed to work so that I get this right. Yeah, it needs the ampersand, and so it was my mistake. We're gonna um, yep. So we'll do that. We just need to remember to do it right here. All right, so let's move on to finally, we're going to get to throwing some pie charts on here. Our focus today is not on showing you how to use ChartJS. So I have a prepared script. It's 92 lines long and it has lots of documentation in it. By the time this gets up on YouTube, you'll have access to this script as well. But I'm showing it here from front to back so that you can copy it and use it if you wanted to work through it or understand it. But I'm just going to copy this script, and this is what we're going to use to get our data and display a visualization. We'll be talking about it and working with it and making changes to it, but the base script is a nice starting point for us where we're leapfrogging that development. So we go into our dashboard form and we're going to put these in as a static text. A lot of times you can do JavaScript in a static text, just whatever you type here. I'm going to paste it here, gets rendered onto the page. And so wherever this static text, and I'm going to call this chart one, but wherever this is displayed, that's this HTML and JavaScript is going to get rendered there. And so let's go through it a little bit. We're providing a div called KPI expense per department. This is where we're going to put the total dollar amount. And it starts off having the value of new, but we quickly replace that. The uh, the charts are rendered inside a canvas, so we have a canvas with an ID called CV expenses for department. We have a nice format number function that helps us make these things look nice, and so that's just a helper. Here's where we get our raw data, and hopefully this is the right. We'll check in a minute, but this is where what we did last time, where we got our we used a token to get all of our data in a JSON format. We're saying we want it by department using the start date and the end date, and so that's the data that's going into this thing. We are getting the labels by using the JavaScript function to pull out titles. We're getting the amounts in the same way, JavaScript function to pull out amounts. And so that gives us some arrays that get pushed down into the JavaScript. We get the total amount coming from the sum of expenses. And then here's where we link this up to that KPI, that div that was there before. We're setting it equal to the amount. We're taking that amount and putting it into a nice formatted way into that div. We have all our data, and the labels are coming from the labels array that we've already explained. The data is coming from the amounts array. We have some options that say it's a pie chart that is using the data. And we turned on responsive, and we have a couple of other options to make it look nice. We're saying by department as the title. And then we have the tooltip. When you hover, this is the logic that shows the percentage of the total. And then we have a spot on click. We're going to come back to on click in just a second because we want to, we'll get this right. It's not going to be wired correctly because I've copied this script from somewhere else, but we'll wire it correctly. Anyway, the script without any changes at all is going to do what we want it to do, hopefully. So we refresh. And no, it doesn't do what we want it to do. We've got the $7,000, but it's not rendering the data yet. So we're kind of halfway there. Let's see what we need to do to make this go. Um, and actually, we might take a look at the console and see if there are errors when this renders. The chart is not defined. Okay. At some line. Don't know. Let's see if we can figure out why it's not defined. So this is CV expenses for department. It's the canvas. Down at the bottom, CV expenses. Chart. Let's double check that I got the data incorrect. The data that we're wanting to consume is this here, and we're displaying it in this token from last time. So I'm just going to make sure it's the same one. I'm going to paste it here so I can see. That looks right. Nothing and hoping something will happen is probably not a good formula. Patrick, do you see anything that I'm doing wrong yet?
I don't.
Oh, I copied this from another place. I'm going to try again. Translation. Nope. So now I guess we get into debugging. So let's do that. In JavaScript, you can among other things that you can do, we're in JavaScript, and here's where we're trying to create our chart. Oh, I know. We didn't load our chart. We didn't load the JavaScript library. Without the library, it has no idea what to do.
Yep.
So let's go do that. I'm going to copy this from somewhere else and import it. But what we're saying is on page load, we need an event. And so you could type this. Again, I did copy and paste, but we need some static files to get ChartJS and the annotations for it. These are coming from to content delivery networks. These CDNs are specified on the chart.js. And so now these will be part of our page. And absent that, it had no idea what I was talking about. Right. Let's try again. Ah. So now we have our sales, our very, very big graph. The size of this is being governed by the fact that this is on our layout. Chart 1 is set very wide. So if I bring it down to 3 columns of 12, it will make it much smaller. There we go. And we can see we've got some of it working. The hover is working. We're saying that it's $2,080 for marketing, which is the same data that we're seeing here. Engineering is 3,000. So we got it nicely wired to the data for department. But if I click, nothing happens. Wow, stuff actually happens. How did that? Oh, this is happening because it's actually wired to the other site that this is coming from, which is, we need to fix that. So let's actually make our changes to getting how this chart should be wired. So this is the on-click function. It does stuff. So this is getting whatever element got clicked out of the. So if it's the engineering or marketing or sales, the element number. This gets the label from that, and this gets the value from that. So we're pulling out these things that we need to use, and then we're going to run some code. And okay, so this just happened to work, which is nice because um, let me explain the Angular JS code here that's going on. We said we need to get what we're looking for is the drill down data field. We're going to push this filter department equals whatever label into it. And this, in order to make that work, you need to know the form ID that you're working with. And the form ID that we're working with is 412. And the script that I happened to copy and paste was using the right number. So I wasn't expecting it to work. I was expecting to come in here and say, well, you got to make this match that, and then you'll be good. So this is saying, go find this. This is going to help us get to the form. This said, using that scope here, go find the form fields drill down data, and this is case sensitive against this, the ID of drill down data. So it goes and finds that field for us and then sets its value to the filter dash department is, and then whatever label it found. So for marketing, it's pushing marketing. Then we do scope apply, so that makes it appear on the form. And then finally, we find the button called on the same 412 form called drill down, and we click it. So that's what happens when you click the form. So it all happened to be wired and it's working. So let's see it. So watch carefully here, this drill down data field. When I click sales, it pushes filter dash department equals sales in there. And then it clicks the button, and we already established the button knows to take this information and to display a pop-up form, the embedded form. So in the same way, marketing, we say 2080 total expense. The marketing department is showing because it's here in the drill down data. Okay, that was all very exciting that it worked. So we've got it showing as a pie chart. We're going to do a couple of customizations real quick because charts in ChartJS can be very easily changed to other types. And there's also, we can change it whether or not to display legends. So let's take a look at that. The type of chart is, we see it here, pie. But if we, instead of saying that we want a pie chart, we said that we want to, we're going to get that from the query string, we can say get type and give it a default of pie. So if there's a type on the query string, then it's going to use it. Otherwise, it's going to come up as a pie chart. The other one that we're going to want to do the legends, and I think I can correctly remember this. Um, Man, I better go check it. Um, I'm going to skip that part just so I don't get off into a cul-de-sac and we don't finish today. So here we go. So now if we refresh this, we're still getting our pie chart, but if we come up here on the query string and say type equals bar, we're going to get a bar chart. Isn't that cool? Or don't chart, same thing. So that's a nice little customization, and so it gives you some ability to pick some other things and pick different ways that the data gets represented. So we did the chart type. We'll skip the legends for now. So the next thing, and we got the drill down button working already, so we're up to that spot. So now let's do some more. Let's clone the script and get it to work for name and category. So here's what we have so far. We want to show the same category data and the name data, and so let's get that done. We have chart one. I'm just going to use the clone functionality and call this chart two. And now we have to find all those areas that have to stay matching and get them updated. So we have the spot where the KPI exists, and um, so instead of, and it has a unique name to it. So I'm going to call it expenses for cat, and then we need to find where it's being set down below and make it match. So we'll copy, whoops, we'll copy this and make it match here. So when we compute the total amount, we'll put it up in the same spot. So that's one of them. The other is, oops, sorry about that. Each canvas has to have its own ID, and so we will say that the name of this canvas is the canvas expenses for cat. And you'd look and find where it was used before, but this is where we say generate the chart into that spot. And so now that's done. So that matches up. And the other thing that we need to do is we'll change the title to say by category. So title will be slightly different. And finally, we need different data. So the data came from that token, and we want to summarize by category. And again, refer to last episode, but this is changing the data that it's looking at. So instead of looking at data that looks like this, it's going to be looking at data that looks like this. So we will save those changes. I think that's all we need to do. Yeah, let's make our layout change too. We'll put chart two up here next to chart one, make it be the same size, and refresh. So now see it's doing the donut chart because we said donut, and we're splitting it out by category. And so with quick changes to that script, it's doing the same work but giving us a different result. And so now I'll just quietly do the same thing for name. You might find it useful to pull this out into a different editor. This is not the best editor for um, JavaScript. So without too much work, we were able to get it in showing in, once we got it showing in one way, it's very easy to get it to show for three different ways and to have um, our options control all of it. Um, and then if we were to look again, we can change this to March of 23. So we'll do a 3 month total and apply the filter, and all the graphs change because we have different data behind them. And here's the data. Good. All right. So we've cloned it and adapted it for some other categories. And so here's the next steps. We're going to do some nice cleanup stuff, and meaning we've got all this extra data. We're like seventh grade math students. We've been showing our work. We can hide all this stuff and maybe add some CSS to make it look nice. So let's what we don't need to see, this data is here, and then this drill down button, this drill down data shows the name of the person, right? Um, oh, there's another change that we didn't make. Need to fix that. So let's the drill down isn't working right. We can fix that real quick. So everything's still wired to department. Let's find it and fix it. We'll go ahead and fix it. And in our drill down, we didn't put the right here. This should be category. And so that's fixed. And then in chart 3, the same problems. So let's make sure we have these working the way they're supposed to. So if we drill down to GIFs, we should only see GIFs, and that's because it's passing the right filter of category GIFs. And if we do Alice over here, we get just Alice. So now it's working right. Okay, always test, always test. So now all the stuff is extra. And so how can we clean this up? Well, one technique would just, if we don't need it at all, would be to delete it. But another technique, sometimes I just hide things, and this is kind of a bonus content that when you're developing, you can add something to a form that only you see because you know to put something on the query string, and then when you're ready to release it, in general, so you can remove the condition. And so that's what I'm going to do is conditionalize this department data. If I only show it if get debug is true. I don't even really have to say that. I can just say get debug because it's going to return a true false value. Um, to make sure I didn't. Yep. So if I do that and save and take a look, now that department data no longer shows. If I pop back up in here and say is true, it'll show back up. So this is a technique that we can use to hide things, and yet if I feel like I'm going to come back and use them on another day, I can just conditionalize them. So I'm going to do that for all this different kinds of data, the three different kinds of data. Uh, the This is the drill down data. That's the field, and this is I'm just going to turn this into hidden field with custom value. This will get it off the screen. We won't be able to see it, but this is a typical way of hiding something like this that you need to keep, but don't want to have it on the screen. And then the drill down button, we need it to be on we need it to be on the form. We can't just make it go away, or else if we didn't show it at all, it wouldn't be available to click. So I'm going to come down here into our UI settings and just hide it by way of CSS. By saying display none, it'll do that. So let's see if this gets us where we want to go. We'll get rid of our debug flag. And so now we have just our filters. This is be the way that it would present to users. And yet, if we wanted to display it, debug true, we can, okay, what was our data? Is this doing what we expected it to do? That kind of thing. This, I mentioned doing a little bit of CSS. Let me find that. I'm out on my system. Yes, I did. So in our charts, we have um, these classes that are giving us this, and one of these is KPI card, and part of that will give us centering. What we would like to do is to see it instead of hanging off over here to the left to get it to be centered. And so I am going to go into our custom CSS and add what I already know will get us there, the KPI card class. So it's going to change the font size slightly, but this display table is going to get it to be centered for us and give us some padding. So now if I shift refresh on this, hopefully we'll get that to show up. So that's, you know, a little bit bolder and centered. Um, and so, yeah, now we've kind of arrived at a final product. So a bit of review. We wired our let's do one more thing. This would be fun. Well, it's fun for me. I don't know for you. In our filtering form, we added this ability to pick type, and yet we didn't make it flexible. So let's wire that into our filter form. So we go into the filter form, and we can add a. I'm just going to quickly do it as a drop down, and this will be a chart type, and we'll add some items here. Will be I, which has the value of I, and R, which has the value of R, and we're not uh, guess there. And so if when we our filter button pays attention to when we say apply a filter, we use that. We can add this to it. We can say type equals chart type. And so our filtering will automatically turn that on. So let's go to our dashboard, and we're getting default dates. We have this chart type. Gee, this needs to be cleaned up. But if I pick bar and apply, it's putting bar on the top. And so now we're getting them that way. So back to our filter form layout, and let's just clean this up a little bit. And in our positioning. So now we can pick our chart type here. And we also need to grab the value in our chart type as an initial value. So we'll pull it off of the query string. So now when we go to dashboard, it has a value. It's pi. If we pick bar, it'll apply, and it sticks because it's pulling off at the top here. and donut. So you can add, if you think about ways that you can customize, you could add lots of different neat customizations to your charts and have them get passed through into the script. Okay. And then to kind of close this off, in my development system, I did charting as a token, and I just wanted to show that kind of what's possible, um, rather than duplicating that JavaScript as we did 3 times. Doing it as a token is also possible. So let me drag this development system here on so we can take a look at it. And so this is not the one we've just been working on, but rather the one I had prepared beforehand. And um, so when I refresh this, we can see it. If we look at the code behind these, we have the department category name logic. They're coming from, they're being displayed actually here as chart 1, chart 2, chart 3. And if you look at chart 1, it's empty. It doesn't have anything in it because and same with chart 2 and chart 3, they're empty. Instead of having all the JavaScript there, I put the JavaScript here. And so we create them using using a context action. We're pushing value into chart 1. And so the way I'm doing that is I am getting the data in one step, and I'm getting the chart itself in another step. Um, and so this token runs a workflow that gives all of our VB script. And so all those things that I had to customize are now instead being passed in by parameters. So I'm passing in the ID of the form, the um, the, the chart ID, which is also chart tied to this the spot where the data comes from. We're saying to summarize by department, and that I want a pie chart. So all these 2 statements now in very low code, 2 tokens gets us a chart. And so if we wanted to add another chart or add this chart to some other page, that these instead of maintaining a bunch of JavaScript on individual spots, it's done in a workflow. Not trying to um, implement that and show you all of that today, but just kind of giving you the breadcrumbs. There is this chart expense work token, which we can run, and if we provide it the right values, it's going to return that same kind of JavaScript that we've been working with before, and that's coming from this workflow. And it's a very simple workflow. It takes some inputs. So this form ID, the chart ID, summarize how you want it summarized, what type you want. And we have a ChartJS that simply inserts those values into the right place. So now everything's being maintained in one central workflow. And if I want to tinker with how um, the charts display or the parameters, now it's in one central place, and it can be used that way. So that's a bonus. So what's next? I am going to put all of this out on campfire.plantonapp.com and make it accessible to you, all of the chart.js, all of the code that was used to acquire the data. And so if you want to do this kind of thing where you're displaying some kind of a chart, how to get the data, uh, how to do drill downs, all of that's going, a nice example will be out there and accessible to you on campfire.plantonapp.com. And we'll probably go over that on Friday. So if you haven't attended, I would encourage you to do that. Good. So we hit our target, all except the legends, and I think I'll probably hit that one Friday as well to show you why customizing, turning on and off the legends might be nice for display purposes. Thank you all for spending your hour with us, and I hope that being able to do ChartJS and their associated drill downs is something that you can incorporate into your projects relatively easily. We will have another great topic for you in 2 weeks. So join us again for Low Code Cafe in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.